My name's Terry Bates. You need my address?
Yes, sir.
I live at 4427 11th Street, Port Arthur, Texas. It's about demolition of houses and the laws pertaining to that. On July 30th, they started tearing down a house in my neighborhood, and I went over there and told them the house had asbestos on it. Told the foreman on the job, found the foreman on the job, was told that they had a demolition permit. I said, I understand that. Do you have an asbestos bait permit? Told me no. So I'd like to read this. It started out on that day. So I tried to call City Hall, couldn't get nothing done. So I ended up calling the police department out, have a police report on that, reported them about the asbestos being done, also about the hazardous to the people in the neighborhood. This isn't the first time this happened. About 15 years ago, y'all tore the house down on the corner. Same thing, nothing was done. So anyhow, I told them about the kids in the neighborhood and the people that they were exposing this to. I come down here to the city Monday morning thinking I'll get something done. I talked to a few people, went to the environmental people, different other people, even talked to you, Judge. I wanted to get this stopped before it got in our landfill, which it didn't get done. You told me that things happen slow. I said, well, I understand that. Things need to be done a little faster when it's a matter of hazard material affecting the neighbors. I explained this about the asbestos. Anyhow, I get up Monday morning thinking I'll come down and solve the problem, thinking that this will be done, telling everybody this is an emergency. I talked to the truck drivers to find out where the material was going. It's going to our city dump, which is not supposed to be in there. Anyhow, I called City Hall, went back to demolition, finally got the chief inspector to come out, told me it wasn't asbestos. So I get up the next morning, take a sample to a lab here in town, Clemtex, that does testing, have it tested to prove it is. Come back down here with the paperwork, go back to demolition, environmental. I even have a copy of that. I made them stamp to prove that I gave them a copy. Nothing was done on that. I haven't heard anything back. I come down to City Hall, talk to some of your legal people. I'm not going to mention all their names. If you want them, I have them. I talked to the chief inspector, like I said, tried to get back in touch with him, couldn't get nothing done. The problem is they're still tearing houses down in my neighborhood. This morning, when I went by, they're building other houses, and I don't have evidence on the rest of them. But I'm going to tell you this, I'm 70 years old almost, and I grew up in this neighborhood. I played in all these houses when I was a kid. I know all the people that lived in these houses, and I know that most of these houses have asbestos siding on them. So I've tracked it down now that it wasn't the Southeast Texas Regional Planner. I think I've tracked it down to the Texas Land Office that's doing this job on this particular one. I've contacted them. They finally got back with me yesterday. You're supposed to get back with me again. The day's their deadline to get back with me. I've subpoenaed records from Port Arthur. Y'all telling me y'all have no records on this house. But y'all have records that there's really a new house. So there ought to be a record of the old house. And I hate to put this back on you, Judge, but you're the one that's supposed to enforce the laws for the people and all the city ordinances. And I brought that to your attention. And it wasn't done for that way I'm looking at it. I mean, I'm not saying you didn't do something. I don't know what you did, but the job didn't stop. And my point is it's going to keep continuing because they're building. I went around the neighborhood this morning, and they're building another one on Sabine. I grew up on Sabine. The other house I'm talking about was 1016. Y'all tore it down 15 years ago, and I brought it to the city's attention back then that it had asbestos. They told me they were going to take care of that problem back then. I even found one of the guys that worked for y'all that y'all sent out, not you, because you wasn't here then, I don't think, sent them out there with hammers to break the material off the house. That's not how it's supposed to be handled. It's supposed to be wetted down, removed, put in double plastic bags, 6 mil thick, and then disposed of in a proper container, which that wasn't done on this house either. The rest of the houses I don't really know about because I didn't check the material, but I know these houses had asbestos on them when they were tore down. And they were at different locations in the neighborhood. I just drove around my block. There's 4 of them right there. And I have the addresses on them too. But this is my problem is that we need to figure out a way because everybody I talk to, from the permit department, environmental, the legal department, the secretaries that work for the city, Nobody could stop this project because they tell me they cannot override a state. And we need to have some way that we can stop this because it's affecting the people that live in the neighborhood. Like I said, all the little kids come to see this big machine tear this house down. And I'm telling everybody, y'all exposing all these people to asbestos. I have asbestos. I know a little bit about it. I've lost 35% of my breathing capacity over that. So that's my point. I hope y'all would really willing to do something about this in the future, that this don't keep continuing.
Okay, Mr. Bates, city manager, the department, because Mr. Bates, he and I had this conversation a couple of times about this, and I believe even at that point, I believe I referred him to, I don't know if it was Miss Pierre, her department that oversees this, and if they don't see a violation, then they cannot stop the job. Am I correct on that?
Your Honor, Judge?
Both the director of demolition and our building officials have found no violation of state or federal law as far as that is concerned.
May I say something back about that? When I brought you the actual proof from the lab to prove it was asbestos, everybody in this room knows about asbestos. You see it every day on TV. There's $30 billion set aside over lawsuits over this. So to say that nobody knows that there's not a law about this, I don't see how that can be. You see it every day on TV. Common sense would tell everybody here that they know about asbestos. And so if your inspector came out to the job and does not know what asbestos is, then we need to have somebody in the department that does know what this is.
Let's see, Ms. Pierre, what you going to approach? Come right on.
You, Mayor. Hey, Mayor.
If you don't need the records or evidence, I have it all.
Okay, but are you through with your presentation, Mr. Bates?
I can tell you more, but that's enough for now.
Okay.
We'll get back together later on this.
Okay. We're going to address or begin to see how we can handle it. We have an employee from the department. She's coming up right behind you. And then I'll get you. Yeah. Did you want to speak before you?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. I don't know Mr. Bates, but I am concerned if the information he provided was tested and was given to our department, and it shows validity that it is asbestos. So if that's the fact, and he put it in our hands, we should try to recognize. I don't know if the director, if you've gotten that information, but if that's so, we should recognize that because we don't want to put anyone else in the neighborhood in harm's way, knowing that we were giving information that gave validity on the testing. So I don't know how we do that, or if it's the state or federal guidelines, but if it is, and we're proved that it is, we should look into that. So I don't know if you've gotten that information. Maybe you can expound on that.
I can. We did speak with Mr. Bates. One of the building inspectors and the building official, Phil Velarde, actually went to the location, and what they witnessed was some hardy plank. They did not see the asbestos. However, it is a GLO project, and we did recommend that he contact Southeast Texas Regional Planning Commission, who facilitates the GLO projects. Also, he did bring Mr. Velarde a result from Chemtex that did the sample for him. However, there's no chain of custody, so we cannot prove that that came from that location. They also said that it was non-friable, which means that it can't be, broken under pressure. The house was already torn down, so there was nothing that we witnessed that would show that there was asbestos at that location. We also have a consultant, so when we have situations that we deal with, we have a consultant that tests for us. However, residential structures are not regulated by the state, so there is nothing that would have happened differently at that location.
Okay. Well, thank you, Director. So do we have any procedure? I know we have houses that's still in the city of Port Arthur that may have that content in it. So what is the procedure, in addressing GLOs requirements? I know you said earlier
I cannot speak to GLO's requirements. I can only tell you that residential structures are not regulated by the state.
Okay. So,
Okay.
all right. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Bates. No, sir, Mr. Bates. Mr. Bates, I'm going to allow you to come back, but you have to begin speaking from here.
I just want to say that in the city ordinance, it talks about demolition of houses, that there's supposed to be a inspection on the house done to make sure it does not have asbestos on it. It's in the city ordinances. I looked it up in the city ordinances. So it's already in our city ordinances. It's also in the state law, 10 days prior to a house being tore down. It's supposed to be given notification that an asbestos test has been done on the property that's to be destroyed. So, and I did bring it to your department. I have the results with the date stamped. I even made them stamp it with their department stamp to prove that I was there on the 2nd of August. And if you need that, I have that also.
Okay, and again, that will be done through Mrs. Pierre and her department. And come on.
And what department is she in again?
She'll tell you when she gets up.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Again, we are not required to regulate residential unless it's a public building. This is a private residence. And again, I cannot speak to GLO's requirements regarding that, but
Okay.
we don't regulate residential.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Bates, what we're going to do, we don't want to get off subject. You've done your presentation, and if there would be anything that we are doing improperly, we're going to, for sure, be in a position to correct it. And if it's something that's outside of the scope of our responsibilities and regulations, then we'll have to refer to that particular state or federal agency. Okay? Thank you for your
Okay, but I want to
concern.
remind you, even in our bylaws, it talks about
Yes, sir.
public
Thank
or
you for your
private.
concern.
Okay.
Thank you for your concern. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Next, we